Baldur's Gate 3 is just around the corner. The early access is, at the very least. If you haven't participated in a Larian early access like with Divinity Original Sin games, or you're just interested in Baldur's Gate 3, let's go through everything you need to know for the early access. Firstly, this video is sponsored by my Twitch channel. If you're interested in learning more about this game or even seeing me play it once it does come out, please go follow me over there, and we can even check out the Twitch integration together, which is going to be a really cool feature for this game, I think. Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access is releasing on September 30th on Steam and also on Google Stadia, which is Wednesday next week. I'll throw up the PC minimum and recommended specs here for you guys that are interested, but if you do have a machine that's like more than 5 years old, you're probably going to be okay. An interesting note in the specs as well is that minimum requirements might decrease over the course of early access as performance improves. So if you can't run it today, maybe check back in a few months or so and just see if the minimum requirements have changed. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 will have 4-player online co-op and 2-player split screen sometime after early access has launched. The coolest feature launching with the early access is the Stadia crowd choice and the Twitch integration that's coming. Larian describes this as a Twitch integration works by numbering each dialogue option which corresponds to the viewer's choices. This feedback is seamlessly integrated into the game where both the streamer and viewer will be able to see each percentage vote next to each dialogue option. What's more, viewers will be able to interact with the Twitch overlay to access the player's inventory, character sheet, skills, and spells. So what's cool about this, right, is that as a viewer, you can basically play the game for the streamer. I can see some streamers setting up some really cool playthroughs where you basically make all the decisions for the game as a stream community, and you're basically just watching out how that plays on screen. Very cool idea by Larian here. Now, moving on to the actual game itself, Baldur's Gate 3 is based on Larian's interpretation of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set. There are some rules and systems that don't translate well to a digital game, but Larian has said that you should expect a true Dungeons & Dragons RPG experience based off the 5th edition rule set. As you would expect, Baldur's Gate will definitely be in the game, and it will feature heavily, most likely in some of the later stages of the game. It doesn't seem like we're going to get to go there in the early access, as from the footage that we have seen from the early stages of the game, you do start your journey outside of the city. Maybe at the end of this Act 1 period that you get in the early access, we might actually get to see the city, but it will be Baldur's Gate in the actual game itself, so you don't have to worry about that. The game follows a new story set in the current era of the Forgotten Realms. The Mind Flayers have found a way to make ships that allow them to travel between worlds, and they are now invading. Abducted, infected, and lost. You are turning into a monster, but as the corruption inside you grows, so does your power. The power may help you to survive, but there will be a price to pay, and more than any ability. The bonds of trust that you build within your party could be your greatest strengths. Caught in a conflict between devils, deities, and sinister otherworldly forces, you will determine the fate of the Forgotten Realms together. So without all of the PR speak, basically you and your homies got tadpoles in your head, which not only links your minds, but allow you to do some wacky tadpole stuff. And the more tadpole stuff you do, the more dangerous it'll become. Basically, I think that's the premise. So yeah, tadpoles in the brain. Anyway. Now, character customization. Well, Baldur's Gate 3 will start early access with 6 classes and the specializations underneath being Fighter, Wizard, Rogue, Ranger, Cleric, and Warlock. There will also be 9 races to choose from in the creator, being humans, halflings, elves, tieflings, drow, githyanki, vampire spawn, and all of their sub-races being, the half-elves, etc. Now, if you played Divinity Original Sin 2, you'll be familiar with Larian's origin characters concept, where these are characters that are basically preset characters that also have their own stories. The early access for Baldur's Gate 3 will feature 5 origin characters, however you won't be able to play as them at the launch, but you can recruit them to your party. The 5 origin characters are Shadowheart, a half-elf cleric, Will, a human warlock, I'm going to butcher this name, Lazil, a Githyanki warrior, Astarion, an elf vampire rogue, and Gale, a human wizard. So once you've got your party all set and ready to go, what are you going to do in terms of combat? Well, Baldur's Gate 3 does feature the 5th edition D&D rules and is class-based. The combat has changed since the initial reveal, and it's now much faster, from Larian's own words. The combat has changed so that each combatant takes a turn at a time, but there is a twitch. If multiple combatants of the same faction follow one another in the turn order, then you can simultaneously command each of them. Basically, this means that if you and your homie enemy Gale both have a turn after each other, you can command you and Gale at the same time to set up different combo attacks. What this will mean is that based on the initial initiative roll, you'll experience a different tactical puzzle for each combat encounter, even if you experienced that combat encounter before, because the turn order will be different. You'll be able to do different combos and you'll be able to play out that combat encounter in a different way. In multiplayer, this works very similar, where your avatars and companions are next to each other in the turn order. Players will simultaneously control characters. So what this means, if me and my homeboy both have our turns next to each other in the turn order, we can take our turns at the same time. This is a huge change. I can't tell you how much time I spent in Divinity Original Sin 2 waiting for my co-op partner to make their turn. This is not only going to speed up combat, but it's going to leave you with much less downtime where you're just waiting for your turn. It's basically going to be you guys taking your turn together and then the enemy turn and then vice versa. As with any good D&D experience, you can also expect stealth in this game to allow you to set up different combat encounters for your characters, and there will be also a separate roles that will occur for stealth based on how visible you are, ranging from clear area as in completely visible all the way to heavily obscured, also taking into account that some characters will have dark vision. So it will also check to see whether you get a stealth check roll or whether you just get seen immediately based on how obscured you are and what kind of enemy is actually looking at you. Otherwise, it's a pretty typical combat experience that you would expect from Larian Studios, but with a D&D flavor on it. In the early access, we are going to get 146 spells and actions to play around with. So not all of them are going to be combat spells or actions, but that is a huge amount of things that we can do, at least in this early access phase. We have covered a lot already, but how long should you expect to be playing this early access for? Early access will feature around 20 to 25 hours of gameplay in a single playthrough, with performance captured dialogues and cutscenes, voiceovers for most of the dialogue, and multiplayer, but no split screen, as I mentioned. Several translations are going to be available, but not all of the ones are going to be available at launch, and it will be the Act 1 story. And Valerian have said that this should feel fulfilling to play through multiple times with multiple characters at this early access stage. Larian has also said that Baldur's Gate 3's early access is roughly 3 times larger than Divinity Original Sin 2's early access was, featuring a ton more combat encounters, dialogue, characters, spells, and more. There's going to be plenty of things to dive into here. One key thing to note, however, is that you won't be able to carry your characters over to the full game after this early access period. Larian's statement on this is, unfortunately, as with most early access games, there are changes, bug fixes, and patches that dictate the fact that wipes will happen to saves. This is because certain fundamental changes to the engine, the story, and it will create incompatibility issues. We will try and tell you when this will happen in advance, so hopefully they won't just make an update to the game and it'll just wipe all of your characters in early access. Hopefully there's plenty of awareness when this happens so that you can either choose maybe not to update the game or choose to update the game during that early access phase. But when the game does fully launch, you will have to start from scratch regardless. And that is basically everything you need to know about the Baldur's Gate early access. I will be doing guides and tips and basically the same kind of coverage you can expect from me that I did with Wasteland 3 for this game as well. So if you're new here, please subscribe so you can have some of that content in your sub box. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday Australian night times. Hope to see you guys there in the next stream. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.